Welcome to Transforming the Toddler Years, a Core 4 parenting podcast blending soul and science-based strategies to empower pandemic moms like you, raising kindergarten-ready kids. I'm Cara Tyrrell, your host, a lifetime lover of littles, girl mom, early childhood educator, and conscious parenting coach who truly believes that how we connect and collaborate with our kids in the first 5 years is how we raise world-ready kids who will change this world. Would you like to transform your triggers? Join me for a free workshop called exactly that, Transforming Your Triggers, 6 simple steps for hijacking reactions and crafting intentional responses. You will leave this 60-minute free workshop with actionable strategies and script starters to help you stop that knee-jerk reaction and truly engage with your child inside a challenging moment. Register with the link in the show notes, and I cannot wait to see you there. Welcome, Jessica. I am so excited that you're here to share with me, to teach and educate me, and share with our virtual village, our whole community of moms, what it means to really be grounded and spacious and give ourselves the space that we need in order to be our best selves so we can care for our kids well. We were talking before we started recording, and I was sharing that even I, at 19 and 20 years old, with my kids being grown up, struggle sometimes to make sure that I stay in the right headspace and interact with them properly after I've been triggered. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to share with us that we can use on a daily basis.
Yeah, Cara, thank you so much for having me. And hello to everyone out in the community. Yeah, momming is hard. I mean, being a human is hard. Being an adult is hard. I just said this to my 2 daughters last night. We were talking about, I don't know, the various follies of, aunts and uncles and all of these experiences. I said, you sitting here right here today at 10 and 13 are the most perfect that you will ever be. I said, being an adult is really hard. And we carry with us our stories from our childhood and our trauma that we've experienced and, present day stresses and finance and relationships and the inner workings of our mental headspace and how challenging that is. And then, being a mom has its own unique sets of blessings and challenges is that we're always on, right? There's never a time to just be like, hey, I'm going to take a day off and I'm not going to mom today. And so that creates its own set of challenges. And really this presentation and what I want to share with you guys is really, this idea of self-care gets thrown around and it gets almost misused and it becomes this concept of really judgment. I think that, people are like, oh, if I'm not doing the bubble bath and the massages and the nail appointments and I'm not doing a good job. And it becomes this kind of standard of care that we're either, living up to or not. And really, I want to take that idea of self-care completely out of it. Those things are great if you enjoy those things, if you have the time and space to do that. But I'm really here to talk about like our mental landscape and our headspace, because through my trainings and teachings as a yoga teacher and as a mindfulness and meditation teacher, our suffering is uniquely ours and we create it in our mind. Yoga believes that suffering's in the mind. We're either worrying about something in the past or that's never coming back, or worrying about something that has yet to happen, right? Which is where I find myself in a lot. It's something as simple as if I don't get the kids to bed on time, then the next day is going to be ruined. And then we're going to have this event and I can snowball it into like 3 or 5 days later of how this one little incident is going to derail my next 24, 36, 48 hours. And it's really fascinating. So I'm really excited to share. I'm very passionate about creating space for other parents.
I can hear that. I can hear it in your voice. I can see it in your body. And I love that. And something that I'm sure you're going to touch on, but I want to say out loud is for anyone who holds this a lot is it's almost like you're talking about forecasting our guilt, planning for our mom guilt before it's even here, and then going back in the past and saying, oh, that's probably something I should feel guilty about too. So it would be great if we can all let that go for this next 45 minutes.
Yeah, I had a really incredible Buddhist teacher back in my early 20s said to me, is guilt, would you order it from a menu at a sandwich shop? Would you be like, I would like a turkey sub with a side of guilt? It is not something that we would knowingly choose yet it's ours to own. I mean, we're the ones creating guilt. Like, we're not the person that we feel, or the situation that we feel guilty over or about is not benefiting from our guilt. It's only the mental suffering that we create, right? Choosing that emotion, right? There is choice in that. But that's a tough one. I mean, again, as we talk through these, I'm going to give you some techniques and tools. We're going to give you some physical tools, some mental tools, some breath techniques, some things that you can do even with your baby or your child, and give you some toolbox. But the reality is, yes, it is challenging. Our minds are meant to think 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have like 80,000 thoughts a day. So whatever you're thinking now about meditation or mindfulness or breath, just know it is not pass fail. We're going to take all of the barriers out. That's kind of, I have this very realistic approach. I'm a mom of 4. Meditation was the very last thing that I wanted to put into my life because it was hard and it wasn't quote unquote good at it. And I kind of took all the barriers away. Like, you don't have to be sitting up. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes. Even just a few minutes of mindful breathing is continuing to practice. And so I want to give you guys some tools and techniques so that we can start to recognize when we're bringing guilt in, recognize when our anxiety is kicking up, recognize how our body responds to stress. And then with that awareness, once we start to build that practice, we can choose how we react in that moment, choose how we move forward, choose what we let down or let go of. It's a really beautiful practice.
All right, we're ready. We're ready to learn how to respond instead of react.
Awesome. So self-care is an inside job, mindfulness, meditation, and myofascial release. That's the physical part that we'll do in the end to actually give you some stress relieving tools. But of course, to do anything, I want to get started with a little bit of grounding. So wherever you are, we're just going to take a few minutes and we're going to do a little meditation together. So like I said at the beginning, meditation is not pass fail. It's not about stopping the thought. If you've caught that little statistic, it's 80,000 thoughts a day. There's absolutely 0% chance that you can stop your mind from thinking. It is what it is designed to do. But it's a practice of bringing your attention into the present moment to achieve little moments of mental clarity. It helps to stabilize our emotional regulation system, and it's done without judgment. So, I look at this meditation practice as, when you find that your mind has trailed off, which it will, even the most avid, seasoned meditators will be like, oh, I was just planning my next trip or thinking about what I have going on today. It's without judgment. It's not getting upset or you did something wrong or that you failed in any way. It's really simply just bringing it back. I use the breath as the really grounding tool to just kind of be that tool in the present moment. Yoga says breathing is the only thing we can do in the present. We can't breathe for ourselves in the past, and we can't breathe for ourselves in the future. So it is the tool that allows our mind to come back into the present. Again, if you're seated and that feels comfortable for you, find a seated position. I like to have a back to my chair to support my back. I like to have my feet on my floor or on the floor because that feels good to be grounded. Again, if it's more comfortable for you to be lying down or anywhere, this can be done even walking, to do meditative walking. But for this exercise, seated or lying down, whatever is comfortable. And let's go ahead and get in that position now. So whether you're seated or lying down, I want you to feel your body against the surface. So if your hips are in a chair, you feel this groundedness, this weightedness. And if you're lying down, you can still focus there. So just notice the body for a moment. Feel the heaviness, maybe around the pelvic area. And once you've tapped into that sense of physical awareness or that sense of heaviness or groundedness, if you're comfortable and if you're able, just close your eyes gently. And if it doesn't feel comfortable in your space to close your eyes, you can just lower your eyelids. Taking a few cleansing breaths at this very beginning. Take a big breath in through the nose, filling up the lungs, and a forced exhale through the mouth. Think of getting all of that air out. We'll do that 2 more times. Big breath in through the nose. And a forceful breath out. Think of clearing out any of that stuck oxygen or energy, chi, if you will. Last breath in, breathe in. And forceful exhale, breathe out. If it feels comfortable, gently sealing the lips. Now we'll breathe in and out through the nose. Just notice the breath as it enters the body. Before we've done any manipulation or altered it in any way, just notice the sensations of the breath. Notice where the breath travels in the body, almost as if you could follow it like a line drawing in through the nostrils down. through the back of the throat, into the lungs. Maybe the belly lifts, rises, and falls as you breathe in and out. Notice the quality of the breath, if it's short and choppy or smooth and elongated. And so often the quality of our breath relates to the quality of our mind. So as we notice these things, we bring that piece of non-judgment. Just notice and awareness. I invite you to take a quick scan of the body from the top of the head, feeling this awareness drop down through the back of the neck. Notice if you're holding any tension in the neck, unhinging or unclenching the jaw. Allow this sense of awareness and relaxation to drape down over the shoulders and arms, through the center of the chest, down through the navel center, resting comfortably there in the pelvis again. Feeling that weight, that heaviness, that grounding in our pelvic center. And then allow that sense of relaxation to drape down the legs all the way down to the feet. Inviting any areas of tension just to simply release and let go. And bring your awareness back to the breath. And again, if you notice that the mind has wandered, just come back for the moment. Feel the breath, feel it tickle the nostrils, the upper lip. Notice the smells in the room or the temperature of the breath. We just invite the mind lovingly back into the present moment. We'll layer on a little breath control, a simple 2-to-1 breath technique I'll guide you through, and then you'll do a few rounds on your own before we conclude this little grounding meditation. Let's take a full breath in when you're ready, breathing in through the nose. Maybe sigh it out through the mouth. Sealing the lips, we'll begin. Breathe in 1, 2, 3. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in 1, 2, 3. Exhale 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Continue counting and breathing. Do 2 to 3 more rounds on your own. And then we'll meet in a little silence. Beautiful. When you're ready, if the eyes were closed, just allow them to flutter open gently, lifting the eyelids if they were just softly gazed downward. Welcome back. So again, there was probably about 5 or 6 minutes or so. And I just want everybody to check in. If you notice anything that might have shifted in just those few minutes, Cara, you can tell me I know you kind of walked into our time together with a lot of mental chatter, a lot going on in your day already this morning. Did you notice anything different that changed in your body?
Absolutely. Actually, I can feel my eye gaze is looking at you on the screen differently now. I can feel more in my chair, and I do have a morning practice. I do make a point of meditating every morning, but because this morning was so off kilter, I chose not to. And as I chose it, I said, I'm going to regret this decision. And so the universe lined it all up that we were doing this today. And now I can sit in my body fully and be ready to learn from you.
Ron, what's so fascinating, thank you so much for sharing, is when we're in a state of fight or flight. So we're in a state of stress, whatever. It could be small, you went to serve breakfast and, your daughter spilt the entire thing of oat milk on the floor, right? We lose our ability to access our executive functioning, our reasoning, and we start to respond from a place of reaction. That's not being able to show up as our highest and best self. When we find that place where we're apologizing and we're like, oh, I wish I shouldn't have said this, and the guilt sets in and those kind of things. And so what meditation, mindfulness, breath that allows us to be in the present moment is to be conscious, to be able to access that reasoning, to be able to continue to show up as our highest and best self, to make choices on how we participate in a situation, how we react to something. None of that is accessible when we're running around crazy. And, mom of four, I get it. You've got teenage daughters. I mean, it happens, right? We're not going to always be able to respond in maybe the way that we would wish that we could with all of our resources available or not available. But these little tools, if just for a moment, and I really highly suggest practicing them outside of the stressful situations. You want to practice before the game, right? You don't want to be at game time and the house is proverbially on fire, or not literally on fire, but figuratively on fire. And you're trying to be like, oh, wait a minute, I'm going to stop and do this breath technique and meditation that Jessica and Cara taught me. So in moments, I say, pick it in the car, doing some mindful breathing. I sit in carpool a lot, which is just sitting there. It seems like hours at a time. I take that moment, 5 minutes, I set a timer on my phone, and I can just find that same grounding meditation, just feeling my, hips against the seat, feeling my feet against the floor, noticing my breath. And it is amazing at how quickly we can change our mental state, change our emotional state.
It really is. I have a question, actually.
Sure.
So this practice I do every morning, because I have such a loud brain, I find guided meditation to be the tool that brings me where I need to be, much like what you just did. And that's on my phone. And I don't like to touch my phone before I start my day. But in order to get to my guided meditation, I need to touch my phone and open that app. And also what I have to do is ignore all the other notifications that came in overnight. So for people like me, do you have a strategy for finding meditations outside of our phone?
Well, we're going to do one at the end. There's a breath technique called Brahmari breathing, which is just really good for those that have a high level of mental chatter. It's called B breath. It's really good for our kiddos. That's one to start. The phone is this necessary evil, right? If you had a meditation that you did consistently that was guided, you could eventually walk yourself through it, right? Like I walk myself through a 15-minute guided meditation. I sit and I do my breathing. I do a little bit of mantra. I do some kind of like inner heart work. I connect with source and I kind of guide myself through it without the actual words. It's become this necessary evil, right? So it becomes, I'm allowed to pick up my phone to set my timer because I use just Insight Timer, but don't pick up Instagram, don't look at my emails. Or, there's just these kind of boundaries that I set, unspoken boundaries. There are scripts for guided meditations online, and you could always print one out. Everything is there on our phone. That's a tough one, and it just is the easiest, especially if you want guided, unless you get proficient enough to be able to guide yourself through. You could record it on an outside device, but I wouldn't know how to do that, where, you want someone's voice to kind of teach you. And there's just so many really good resources that are at, our fingertips. It's about, I think, creating those personal guidelines or boundaries that will keep us focused and centered. When I started meditating every day, I literally started in my bed and I was like, I'm just going to lay there for 5 minutes. I'm going to work through a body scan, relaxation. And it was 5 minutes right when I woke up, and I was like, you can't look at your phone or touch it until you spend this 5 minutes, and that turned into 5 and 10, 15 and 20 and those kind of things. And it built from there. But yeah, I'll give you a few techniques and it's great. Once you get comfortable with what works for you, I would say try them out in the app, pull things that you like, maybe jot them down. I liked this breath technique, or I really liked this golden light meditation. I felt really good after I did that. You can start to create your own kind of quote unquote guided meditation that you can use in those moments where, you just can't seem to help yourself with the phone. Maybe you just put it away and you go back to the skills. We have the skills already inside of us.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying is that maybe even saying out loud to myself, before I go open up the meditation app. I am picking up my phone so that I can do a meditation, right? Just stating my intention and doing it.
Yeah, I mean, intention is everything, right? I mean, it's that awareness piece that I think is what's so beautiful. And that's what we build as we build a meditation and mindfulness practice. It's awareness. We very regularly are mindless when it comes to our phone. We mindlessly check our emails, our text messages, our Instagrams, our likes, or whatever. We're just kind of on this autopilot. And so to be present, feel your body, maybe take a few minutes before you even reach for your phone, Karen, like feel your body, a few minutes of just some conscious breathing, which gets you in the present moment. And then that awareness and that choice piece comes where you're like, okay, I'm not going to mindlessly just go hit the apps. I'm going very intentionally to do the meditation, and again, it's a very personal thing. Maybe some people don't have any issue with that. I mean, I do. When I wake up, I'm like, I want to scroll through all of the things, I mean, we are conditioned to have this supply and demand, right? And it's like, you've been sleeping for 8 hours, hopefully, and you've built up some demand and supply, it's hard.
And that really is what you're going to talk to us about today, because this is the true self-care. I give myself permission to have 5 minutes in my bed and then 5 minutes more where I feel my body and then I ground myself for my day. That's our true mom moment.
Yeah. And I would be hard pressed, even in the busiest moms, to tell me that you can't find 5 minutes, and I think, again, when this piece of self-care happens, and I want to go to my girl Oprah here in just a second, because why it's actually important. She does such a good job of really putting the onus on ourselves. Happiness is an inside job. Presence, awareness is an inside job. Joy only exists in the present moment. It does not exist when we're living in our head, when we're stuck in the past, when we're worrying about things that we can't control. And I think we all just want to be happy. I mean, we really do. That's why we're here. We want to be present with our kids. We want to, have the best relationships as possible. My yoga teacher says, I don't want just an okay life. Like, no one says that. Like, I just want a mediocre, okay life. No, I want the best life I can have. I want to be the best I can be. And none of that is possible when we're stuck in our heads. That's really hard. But let me play this because I think Oprah does such a poignant job of really taking the ownness and sharing her own personal story. So hang tight.
Okay, we're here in life class again after last night, knowing when you know better, you do better. We're ready to move on to what I think is another powerful lesson that I started to get when I was a really young girl, having been raised by my grandmother, and then at 6 years old, being separated from my grandmother, being moved to Milwaukee and suddenly in a foreign environment for myself. I remember walking into that new space and recognizing that in many ways I was alone, which is a terrible feeling if you're 6 years old. But I have always had the deep understanding for myself that if anything was going to move forward in my life, that I was going to have to be responsible for making that happen. And I know that to be true now and can articulate it as you are responsible for your life. And if you're sitting around waiting on somebody to save you, to fix you, to even help you, you are wasting your time, because only you have the power to take responsibility to move your life forward. And the sooner you get that, the sooner your life gets into gear. This is what I know from doing 25 years and thousands of interviews on the Oprah Show. It does not matter where you come from. I have seen people come out of the desert, walk across the desert, being born in the most dire circumstances. Doesn't matter what your mama did, whether she did or had a PhD or no D. What matters is now, this moment, and your willingness to see this moment for what it is, accept it, forgive the past, take responsibility, and move forward.
Oh, so powerful. I think the big thing that she says too on the end is forgiving the past, accepting the present moment for what it is, and having the willingness to move forward. And that's where meditation, mindfulness, that allows us to accept the moment for what it is, to truly see it, to be in it, really just appreciate. It doesn't stop you from having highs and lows or ups and downs in life, but it allows you to accept the reality, not wishing it to be a different way or wanting it to be something different that it is, but truly accepting that, and then being able to make those choices of how you want to proceed moving forward in the best of times and the worst of times. Because one thing is for certain, change will come, life will change. There will be ups and downs. Yoga believes that anything that is changing is not real. So our emotions, our body, our mind, the experience. And what's true is this presence, this light, its source, and that's what continues on. And that's what we can tap into through mindfulness and meditation.
That was incredibly powerful. 2 minutes to reset and remember. So good.
Yeah.
Hey, Cara here, just popping in to ask you a quick question. Are you dealing with meltdowns? Of course you are. You're a toddler mom. What if there was a tool that could help you manage your own emotions and triggers better, so you can help your child return to center faster inside the meltdown moment? I am so excited to share my free guide with you. I've even recorded audio files, 5 mindful mantras for conscious moms managing toddler meltdowns. Grab it today with the link in the show notes. Then download the audios and manage meltdowns consciously. And now I'll bring you back to the rest of the episode.
So let's talk about the benefits of meditation, right? So again, I love to take the barriers of entry away. We're not monks. We're not living in a cave somewhere. We're not going to sit around and a cross-legged. It's what's called Sukhasana. It's an easy pose, which is not comfortable and easy for most people to sit cross-legged on the floor. So get comfortable if you want to meditate. Make sure that your physical body is comfortable. I remember the first time, probably 13 years ago, when I went through my first teacher training and they had us sit for 20 minutes of meditation outside in a parking lot. And I thought it was some kind of torture. I mean, I was so uncomfortable. I was opening my eyes every few minutes. I was like, this is terrible. Who would ever want to do this? And realize that getting the body comfortable is super important to be able to stay present. So if you've got, foot's falling asleep or your back's uncomfortable, I mean, those are the things that it's going to be hard to not focus on. So getting comfortable, taking away this idea of pass fail, right? That you can't be good or bad at it. There is no good or bad. I mean, some minds may be a little bit busier than others. You may notice that your mind is busier at different times of the day as you start to do this practice. But the benefits are there. Counteracting negative thoughts and emotions, being able to be really present, engaging, listening to our children, to our families, in our work, in our jobs, in our relationships, focusing on the present moment. Meditation brings us into the present. That's where joy lives. That's where happiness lives. It allows us to eliminate or reduce negative emotions because we can allow them to just come and go. Meditation allows us to just sit. If, many a time, and I don't know if you've had this experience, Cara, where I've sat in meditation, I've just cried. Not about anything in particular. It wasn't that I was overly sad or that I was thinking of something, or grief or an experience. I just had a lot of emotion that came up. I sat with it. I allowed my body to feel it, and then they dissipated, then they go away. Meditation increases our patience and tolerance, right? And when we're able to be less reactive, the more patient and tolerant we are. When we're living from that fight or flight place, when we are reacting to situations, experiences, people, we're not having the patience and tolerance that we want to have as parents. And meditation may help with illnesses, anxiety, depression, cancer, chronic pain, asthma, heart disease, IBS, right? Our second brain in the gut. So the benefits go on and on. It's hard to actually argue. And I can say physically, I track all of my, whether you have a Whoop or an Oura ring, I track something called, my resting heart rate variability, which is our body's ability to recover from the night before, from whatever the day's activities, whether it's physical stress, you've worked out, or maybe just emotional stress. And since I was meditating every day, nothing else changed in my life. My resting heart rate lowered 10 beats, which is a lot. Was going from, 65 to 68 down to the mid to high 50s. And my heart rate variability, which is my body's ability to recover from stress, be it stress I created, like a workout, like I said, or, emotional stress, That heart rate variability increased to my body's ability by about 10 points, to my body's ability to recover increased by only adding in daily meditation. So if you're not a firm believer, do these little tests for yourself. I thought it was fascinating that it happened in my own body.
And how did you track that?
So I have something called an Aura ring, Oura. Whoop is another one. It's a strap people wear. There's a handful of these kind of tracking devices that really check like sleep, the body's ability to recover, how much deep sleep you're in, how much REM sleep you're in. I geek out on all that stuff. I love to know what's going on with my body. I feel like I'm so fascinated by, the body's just an incredible machine and its ability to recover or not. It also helped me make some lifestyle choices. When you're getting information staring you straight in the face, it's hard not to make some choices differently. So for me, that worked really well. But there's a handful of those kind of apps and trackers that if you're interested, I can give you guys more examples later.
Wow. Yeah, I think as moms, we're data collectors, right? We're problem solvers. And if something's not working, if we're not getting out the door on time every morning, then there must be a root cause, and we dig for it, and then we make an adjustment. So yeah, I think that would be something as the community we would really like to know more about.
Yeah, it really helped me make some choices. I noticed, even just a little bit of wine in the evening for me really affected my sleep, my body's ability for deep sleep, for feeling rested. And I knew that it was affecting me when I would make these choices, but I didn't have something telling me that I read. So, you can look a blind eye, and then having that information was like, okay, these are some choices that, I made for myself. I made different ones because sleep was more important, and being rested and being able to show up for me. And I don't know if you feel the same, but when I'm not rested, that patience and tolerance goes right out the window. That's the first thing to go.
Absolutely. I have never done sleep deprivation well, even knowing I was walking into it. Right.
100%.
We have a baby. What's the first thing you know? I'm not going to get a lot of sleep. Yeah.
Doesn't make it any easier.
No.
So why is our emotional state important as parents, especially new parents? So have you guys heard of mirror neurons and baby development, and how the emotional state of a mother can directly correlate and impact the emotional state of the child? So you have an anxious mother, a stressed out mother, an exhausted mother. You may have a colicky baby, a fussy baby, a baby that doesn't sleep well. That's how they learn. Babies, they learn to imitate. That's where those mirror neurons really come into play. And it starts as early as 2 or 3 weeks old, that they can reflect the emotions from the parents. That's how they start to learn how to self-regulate or not. What the conclusion for all this is that your emotional state as a mother can directly impact the emotional state and well-being of your child. And so that's when we need a resource, a toolbox of stress relieving tools. That's where mindfulness, breath, meditation comes in, because it is really easy to be overwhelmed as a new mom, as a mom in general. And if we don't have tools in our toolbox to be able to downregulate our nervous system, to get out of fight or flight, to calm ourselves, to de-stress, then we are affecting our child, our baby. We're affecting those around us. If you've ever, your children may be a little older, like you walk in and you've had a bad mood, and all of a sudden you feel the energy just filter over the room, and everybody's all of a sudden they're starting to fight and there's arguments. Our energy as mothers specifically really does affect those, of course, with the mirror neurons and our babies, but of our children as they get even older. And so having this toolbox is so important.
Jessica, before you dive into it, I want to point out, especially for a lot of the moms in this community, that they parented during the pandemic. They had babies inside the pandemic. So that stress level and our energy and our anxiety was already at a level 10. And we were just surviving every day, not knowing what the next reality was going to be. And so could you speak to those moms for a moment and just give them the assurance they need that all of that energy that was felt by them and their babies for those years, we can move forward and move through it. It's going to be okay.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you made it. We're on the backside, right? So there's a lot to be said. It was a time of unbelievable, unimaginable stress that we felt. And it was really the first time, I think, at least in my lifetime, that there was a collective human suffering, that globally we were in an experience. And although we felt it, in our own individual circumstances, it was happening to everyone across the entire globe, which is a very kind of bizarre phenomenon. But what we do know is that the brain is malleable. We know that the brain's malleable when they're little, right? Obviously. Right. But as it continues on, as we come into adulthood, we can, at any point, can create new neural pathways that we can change the brain. They talk about, can we change our personalities? I mean, I am living proof through yoga and meditation. I had a good hard look at myself. I was a perfectionist, overachiever, very open, talking about suffering with eating disorders. I have an extremely intense narcissistic father. I followed in his footsteps. And there was a point in my life, in my mid-20s, that I looked around and I said, if I don't do something different, I will turn into really the least positive qualities of both of my parents. And then I found yoga and meditation and really followed in that path, and have since changed the person, the trajectory of who I came. I think differently. I act differently. I speak differently. I show up differently. And we know this about the brain. And it continues, right, in any moment. And again, I keep quoting yoga because that is my background. That is, some people find it through coaching. Some people find it through therapy. Yoga was my savior. That's where my studies come from. And I said, when a negative thought arises, replace it with a positive one. This is what yoga is about. It's what meditation is for, is that we can continue to change and to, at any moment, like every breath is a new opportunity. Forget the breath before, that moment's not coming back. Not forget, but what we survived in the pandemic, we survived. It made us kind of who we are. And now the eyes are on the present and moving forward, and how we can continue to show up and support one another, to support ourselves, to support our families, and be the best version of ourselves that we can be.
Thank you. We really needed to hear that. It's over, mamas. Let go of that. Whatever it resulted from it, we are going to use these strategies that Jessica's going to teach us, and we are going to help our kids be more self-regulated.
100%. We are the examples for our children. How we model behavior is actually far more important, and because your daughters are older, than what we say. Yeah. And how, we continue to treat ourselves, treat what's going on in our mental headspace. And we have to practice these things ourselves. If we want our children to be self-regulated, and we want them to be resilient and compassionate and empathetic, as I imagine everyone out there listening does want their children to be, we have to start practicing that for ourselves. So that is why our mental headspace, that's why taking care and creating a stress relieving toolbox, living in the moment, experiencing joy, experiencing presence is so important. So let's go into ways to reduce stress, right? So sleep is the first one. I mean, there's many, many, many ways to reduce stress. This is just a handful, but it's so important prioritizing sleep. Even when you're a new mom, getting those naps in, when there's an opportunity to, where it's a choice between cleaning the house and maybe taking that 30 minutes rest, it's really important to prioritize our sleep, because that is our body's ability to recover. That's the time when those new neural pathways are created, that everything that our systems can reset and recharge. And so prioritizing sleep, I mean, most Americans do not get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And we run on this badge of honor that, I stay up until midnight and I get up at 5, or whatever the case may be. And so really kind of looking at these just everyday lifestyle choices and habits that you may have, what can change to prioritize sleep. Second, we know, get support, whatever that looks like for you. I did a great podcast with a woman that, really is promoting mothers helpers. If you have little ones, maybe you have toddlers at home, and it's just a young person that would come, because it's expensive, right? It's expensive. Not everyone can afford to get help, and mothers helpers are a fraction of the cost of a more traditional babysitter or nanny, and that can give you and just a few moments of quiet, maybe just sit down and put your legs up, and because your toddlers are in the other room, they're home, you're home while they're home, and just asking for help. We as women don't often extend our hands and ask for help when we need it. We have a society and culture of just doing it all. We are capable. And so we continue to put more things on our shoulders, but ultimately this comes back to, taking care of yourself first, right? We are not able to take care of those that we love without taking care of ourselves. And so asking for help, whether it's from a spouse or a friend, a mother-in-law, or you have the ability and the finances to hire paid help, getting some support, your support circle. Then we get into meditation. right? So a few little examples. Obviously, we talked about all the benefits of meditation, but tucking that away, putting that in your stress relieving toolbox, that it is accessible. And I can speak from experience. I felt, as my meditation practice really got in its groove, that there wasn't anything that life was going to throw at me that I wasn't going to be able to handle. That I was like, I'm not going to stop at the ups and downs of life and the challenges and the stress, and those things will come. I feel equipped to handle whatever life has to throw at me. And that is thanks to my meditation and yoga practice. Breath techniques to reduce stress. Again, breath is so important. We'll do another one here at the end. Systematic body relaxation. A very, very simple body scan. We did that a little bit at the beginning where we were seated. We probably only spent like a minute. If you're having a hard time sleeping, if you find yourself in moments of stress, we hold it in our physical body. Notice when I'm stressed, I clench my jaw. I'm a big jaw clencher, or I'll, tighten my shoulders. Some people do their fists. Some people feel it in their gut or their digestive tract. But systematic body relaxation is exactly that. It's starting from, the crown of the head, and you just simply go through and you relax each part of the body. You relax the eyelids, you relax the face muscles. You kind of go through, it's self-explanatory, but it's something that I do before I go to bed to kind of get my body in a state of relaxation, because I know we as moms, we are working to that last second. There was this cute meme that I saw a little while ago, and it was like, when moms say they're going to bed, it's like, oh, okay, I'm going to bed. And then I putting away the dishes on my way. I'm folding the laundry and taking that out. I'm putting the laundry away on my way to bed. It's never stopping until my head hits that pillow in the end of the night. And then we expect to do all of that work, all of that doing, and then lay in bed and then fall asleep right away, which is really challenging, for our mind and our body. And so that systematic body relaxation is a really great tool to kind of get your body prepared for sleep, me time, whatever that looks like. Again, it comes in many different forms. You start to create your own stress relieving guidebook, your plan, your toolbox. And then I'll get into some of these self-massage techniques. We don't touch our bodies enough, even just rubbing our own feet, our hands. I'm going to give you one for these muscles on the side of the neck that tend to be the first responders in times of stress, but touching our own body, right? We don't often do that. And it seems so silly to think, but touch is important. Maybe we go throughout the whole day and someone needs something from us and we're not really getting any positive or filling up physical touch from another person or from ourselves. And, it's a really great technique. All right, so let's move on to this incredible, I'm just such a huge fan of myofascial. So your fascia is this incredible framework. If the visual is like an orange, and you cut an orange and you've got all the white pith, right? So you've got it underneath the skin. So we've got fascia in our adipose layer. So the surface, you look at the segments of orange, there's pith in between there. And if you look at the actual little pieces of orange, almost like the little cells of orange, there's pith kind of around that. So you imagine that's what our fascia is. They're superficial. There's deep fascia in between our organs, in between our cells. There's fascia around our organs. So it's everywhere and it communicates, and it's an intelligent system, and it's innervated with nerves and 250 million nerve endings. And you don't need to remember any of that, except for we can affect these muscles. It's great to get a massage, and that's awesome. But if you're like me, I don't have time to have a massage, every week, every other week, once a month, maybe sometimes even every, handful of months. And so we're going to work on an area on the side of the neck. It's a myofascial release technique. So sternocleidomastoid, SCM is what it's called, is basically one of the first responders for stress. When you start to feel tension, headaches, again, the jaw kind of clenching, it's all interrelated. Sorry, I've got my headphones on, which is kind of hard, but its origin point is right here behind the ear. And so you're going to find it. If you turn your head to one side, you can kind of feel this ropey band of muscle. It innervates right in here behind the ear. It comes down forward and attaches onto the clavicle. So it kind of wraps around. You can feel it if you pinch it a little bit. Do you feel this kind of ropey muscle? I'm kind of just lateral into the posterior part of the neck. So you're not on the front of the trachea, right? You wouldn't want to do that, but you can, if you put your head to the side, feel that. You've got it, Cara?
I do.
Okay, cool.
Sorry to say it's sore.
Yeah. Right. It's literally our first responder, and not in a good way. So there's a couple different techniques. So if you lean your head and you find that little ropey band of muscle, you're just going to use the pads of these 4 fingers, and you're going to put a little bit of pressure. And then I just want you to kind of look up and then away. You're going to drag that tissue down a little bit. You're going to soften again, put your head to the side, find that little muscle band, give it a little bit of pressure. And again, you're kind of looking away. It doesn't have to be 10 out of 10. If it's sore, you're going to use a little bit of less pressure. And this neck skin tends to be kind of tender. So just notice that. I've got my fingers in there. I'm finding that tissue when I lean my head there. I'm putting a little bit of pressure and then I'm kind of looking away. So you can go and take it all the way down and go as fast or as slow as you need. As I'm just kind of, if you see, I'm just kneading my head. So I'm softening it, finding that pinch, and then I'm looking in the opposite direction, finding that little pinch, looking in the opposite direction as I just kind of knead down that muscle. So you go, again, just, maybe a couple minutes. This is a great one. You're sitting at carpool, you're breastfeeding, especially we carry around our kids and our babies all the time. We hold it in our shoulders and our stress and tension. And then one more little technique, which may be a little bit easier, you're going to use the lobster claw technique. So you're going to wrap it around. So I've got the claw wrapping around the back of my neck. Now I'm going to use the thumb. So I'm on my right side. That was kind of the same side. I'm going to find my head there, softening my right ear toward my right shoulder so that I feel that pinch. And then I'm going to lean my head again as I drag my head away to the opposite side. So I'm going to find that little band of tissue, put a little pressure, lean off to the side, just kind of drag it. If it's too much, you can give yourself a little slack in the skin. If the skin is tight or thin or doesn't feel good, you can give yourself a little less pressure. I really feel it as I come down here.
Definitely feel this technique a bit more.
Yeah, right. And it's going to add a little bit of pressure, right? Because you're able to you think this is more surface area. So it's going to dissipate kind of that pressure point where you're using the thumb pad, which is going to be a little bit more intense. So when I do this, I always love to kind of take a moment, just sit, relax. I was working my right side. My right side feels a little more open. My right shoulder feels a little bit lower. My left side feels a little tighter, a little more kind of dense almost. And you would do the second side. Again, you can kind of start with just those finger pads, which is going to be the lesser technique. And then the lobster claw would be where you use the thumb. So it's just one of those tools that we start to tuck away and say, okay, I'm having tension headaches. I'm feeling stressed. It happens to be the first responder to stress. We can relieve some of that, physical pain that we carry in our body, right? Just having some tools and resources to go to.
I love it. And they don't take long.
No, a couple minutes, truly. And what's so great is that you're also affecting the surrounding tissue. So you're affecting this muscle, you're also affecting the scalenes and, the areas behind the head. And so it really helps with tension headaches. To relieve that, if you're a jaw clencher, you're affecting an entire area just by kind of working through that. You're increasing hydration, you're increasing communication, everything kind of works better, right? And when it's all working more smoothly.
What a chain reaction for good. And my gosh, the depth of your knowledge on this subject. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
I love it. Yeah, I'm so passionate about giving other women and mothers tools. There are things that we can do at home to feel better in our own body.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So this is our last meditation we're going to do. I talked about, this Brahmari breathing technique at the very beginning. You said you're one that has a lot of mental chatter. And this technique is so great because it drowns out the sound, right, of our mind. And I think that's where guided meditation is helpful because there's a sound to kind of keep us grounded. We don't just have to sit in silence or stillness. And this is one that we create. When I'm teaching it to my kiddos, I teach it as bee breath. Brahmari breathing doesn't mean anything to them, but they can make the sound of the humming bee. It's also the sound of the universe, the sound of Om at the end, right? There's a vibration. So I'll give you an example. The breath is going to come naturally on the inhale. And as you exhale, the mouth will be closed and you're going to make a humming in the back of the throat. So as you imagine, if you were making the sound of what a humming bee would sound like, you're just going to feel that vibration. So it is stimulating our vagus nerve. So it is stimulating our rest and digest. We're able to get out of fight or flight with this simple breath technique. So let's just do a couple rounds. We don't have to do a whole bunch together, but wherever you are, just go ahead and take a breath in through the nose, seal the lips. And as you exhale, you're going to breathe out through the nose.
Do you use hands on?
Do I use my hands?
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I don't, I was just I think I was just happened to put my hands there. So really just continuing to breathe in through the nose, finding that breath, that humming sound, that vibration. And breathe in. Humming breath, breathe out. One more round, breathe in. And humming breath, breathe out. Wonderful. So when you get proficient at this, you can actually do a silent humming. So if you're in the train or on the subway or in an Uber or you're around people and you don't want to be, humming, you can do that silently also without sound. You can still have that same vibration and still get the benefits from this technique. Again, I do this one with my kiddos. It's kind of fun. We imagine kind of flying like a bee. I've taught yoga for kids in elementary schools. We'll do this and kind of flutter around like a bee or a hummingbird and teach that breath technique. The kids really like it. And again, it's creating their own stress relieving toolbox as well.
Amazing. I love how you're giving us the whole landscape of options, because I don't know about you or these mamas who are joining us watching in the village, but I find that I had an expectation for meditation that was sold to me through different media outlets, through books even. I remember reading Eat, Pray, Love, and there's one specific moment where she's overseas and she has to catch this train because she's done with her time at the retreat. And she sits outside in the patio space and goes into this deep meditation. She has no touch with reality and comes back just in time to go get her train. And I was like, oh, that must be meditation. That must be what I'm supposed to achieve every time. And it creates this sense of, like you said in the beginning, that we're not doing it right. So you've given us a full landscape of permission of you can do it this way or this way or this way. And your thoughts will always be there, and just be ready to say not right now.
Yeah. And that's so beautiful. And that moment in Eat, Pray, Love was also meditation, and really profound meditation. Yes. And it also can be 5 minutes when you're driving in your car, and you're just doing breathing and I think there's space for all of it. And that's what's so beautiful. It doesn't have to be this end goal experience that we're going to be, if you get to a point where you're meditating for 20, 40, 60 minutes, a couple hours, God bless you. Great. That is amazing. The more meditation, the better. But we have to start somewhere, and there's space and room for all of it and everyone to show up exactly as they are, coming in with whatever experience or lack of experience or whatever reservations. And again, let's just open up this beautiful landscape to everyone. It doesn't have to, if it looks like that, great. That's incredible. It doesn't have to though. And that's kind of where I come in. And, I was in the same way, that if I wasn't sitting for 20 minutes uncomfortable in Sukhasana doing this, then it didn't count. And that stopped me from having a consistent meditation practice, because I became very stringent. And if it didn't look like that, then I wasn't going to do it at all. And ultimately I fell off. Right. So when I was able to give myself permission to show up exactly as I am, with whatever resources I have in that moment, that my meditation practice is going to reflect that, when I have time for 20 minutes and I can sit there, and sometimes I have 20 minutes and my mind's all over the place, the whole 20 minutes. And that's okay too. That is the reality of continuing to show up. It is consistency. I keep showing up. Some days it's 5 minutes. Some days I open my eyes after 8. Some days it's 20 minutes and I get deep and something profound happens. But I'm not going into it with any expectations or limitations or restrictions. And that's the beautiful thing. I mean, how often do we get permission to just show up exactly as we are?
That's it. You just nailed it. All of it. Let the expectations go. Set reasonable and achievable expectations, which is, I'm here.
Yeah, showing up exactly as I am, creating my own stress relieving toolbox. And the more that you do anything, the more you work out your biceps, the more that you go for a run, the more proficient you get, period. I mean, our brain is a muscle. We talked about it. It's malleable. It changes. And so, we're exercising that muscle to bring it back into the present moment. Sometimes it's 50,000 times in the day. Sometimes you can sit through meditation and you only trail off a few times, but we're exercising that muscle. And it does, I don't know that it gets easier, because like things, the more you do it, the more layers you uncover and the things you experience, but it becomes more proficient. You become more consistent by just continuing to show up.
Wow. Thank you so much for all your wisdom and knowledge. And I know these resources are really going to help. I will put them into that mini toolkit that you recommended. And then we will choose on a daily basis what we need to help us in that moment so that we can be more mindful and grounded and present with our kids.
I love it. Thank you so much to the Village, for you, Cara, for having me, for sharing something that I'm so passionate about to share with other parents. I've got every week on my podcast, The Zen-ish Mommy, I release a one-on-one conversation with experts in the field of women's wellness and health and sex and parenting and marriage, and a place for you to educate and empower yourselves. But I also release a very short, anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes, a mindfulness or meditation. Sometimes it's me just talking about what I've experienced. I've done mindful eating, mindful walking, little mini meditations, and those are new episodes that come out every Thursday on the podcast, The Zen-ish Mommy. So check it out. Thank you so much for having me. It was a real honor to be here.
Oh. Absolutely, everybody, you need to go follow the podcast. You need to do it right now. If for nothing else, if you're not going to be able to spend time listening to one-on-one conversations right now because you are a busy mom with young kids, fine. But you can go do her short meditations, right? That is why we're here today. That's what we're grounding into. So thank you for that resource. And on that podcast, they'll be able to find out other ways to work with you if you seem like someone that they'd like to know more about.
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on Instagram at @the_zen_mommy, at thezenmommy.com, or over on TikTok at thezenmommy. So I'd love to hear from you.
And as always, everyone, I want you to remember that your job is to find the people that help you be your best self. We all, as moms, have that just right match. Don't feel like you have to, it's kind of like looking for the right therapist. Go find someone who aligns with you and lean into it. And then bring back what you learned here to the Village as well. Thank you, Jessica. I really appreciate your time, and I cannot wait for those meditations. I'm going to go check it out myself.
I love it. Thank you.
Like what you hear and want to support the show? We'd be so grateful if you'd click over to our Patreon and pick the tier that matches your support level best. Personally, I would love if you join our Mindset Mama meditation membership. For $7 a month, I craft and record and deliver to you a brand new meditation every Monday. They're short, 5 to 10 minutes. Ground into your week, body, mind, and spirit, so you can be the best conscious mom for your little one. Let's take this journey together. I'll see you inside. Thank you, Mama, for making time for yourself and prioritizing your parenting. Listening to this podcast. Until the next episode, stay mindful and proactive as you transform the toddler years.